click. That was the sound that changed everything. It wasn't the sound of the app confirming an order, or the engine cooling down in the December chill. It was the unmistakable metallic sound of the deadbolt on my apartment door locking, followed by a heavy, profound silence that felt like a prediction. It was 12:47 a.m., and the air outside had dropped below freezing, turning the sparse snow into crunchy, crystalline dust under the tires of my old sedan. I was done for the night, already mentally calculating the meager tips, but then the screen flashed green. A last-minute order from a diner 20 minutes out, heading into the older, sprawling sections of town I rarely serviced. It was a big payout for a single run, enough to make the extra hour worth it, so I sighed and accepted the job. Why did I accept that job? I remember asking myself that question later over and over, when the fear had clamped down on my chest like a vice. I picked up the food, 2 huge, steaming bags of late-night comfort, and started the drive. The neighborhood was different here, quiet and dark, with huge, 2-story houses set far back from the street, most of them shrouded by skeletal winter bare trees. The navigation told me I was heading to something called 3712 Evergreen Drive, an address that sounded peaceful but felt utterly wrong in the biting cold and total blackness of the night. My phone was clipped to the dashboard, providing the only illumination in the car besides the faint glow of the streetlights, which were few and far between. As I drove deeper, the GPS kept recalculating, sending me down narrower, unpaved roads until I felt truly swallowed by the darkness. Was this really a residential address? I wondered, feeling the first genuine prickle of unease on my neck. I finally arrived at the pin. It was an empty lot, a dark gap between 2 houses, one of which was clearly under renovation, its windows boarded up and a huge construction dumpster sitting near the curb. There was no mailbox, no porch light, and definitely no house numbered 3712. My stomach dropped. I pulled over, parked the car, and immediately checked the app. The delivery instructions were simple. Leave bags on the porch. Text when arrived. Don't knock. I texted the automated arrived message, waited the mandated 5 minutes, and then messaged the customer directly. Hi, I'm at 3712 Evergreen. The address seems to be an empty lot. Can you confirm your house number or location, please? The response was immediate. You're standing right there. My heart hammered against my ribs, a loud, frantic beat in the silent car. I spun my head around, peering into the shadows. The street was still, the houses dark, the only movement the slight shimmer of the old oaks in the wind. Who texted me that? I typed back, trying to keep my hands steady on the cold steering wheel. I'm confused. Where are you? I need a specific location. The reply came back even faster this time. Look up. 3rd window on the right. I slowly lifted my gaze, following the line of the old, dark house next to the empty lot, the one that was boarded up. My eyes landed on the 3rd window on the right on the 2nd floor. It was the only window that wasn't boarded up. It was a small, dusty pane of glass, reflecting the feeble light from my sedan. And as I stared, a light flickered on behind it. It wasn't a standard room light. It was a single, dim, yellowish bulb like a bare utility lamp hanging on a wire. And then, a shadow moved behind the glass. Was that a person standing there? The shape was tall and unnervingly still. My mind screamed, abort, leave, now. But my hands were frozen to the wheel. I had to know. I typed another message, my fingers trembling. Is this your house? Can you come down for the order? The food is getting cold. The lie felt hollow even to me. I wasn't worried about the food. I was terrified of what would happen if I stepped out of the car. The response that followed made me gasp, a choked, silent sound that barely disturbed the quiet of the car. Don't worry about the food. I just wanted to see you tonight. I like your scarf. I snatched my hand up, gripping the edge of the woolen scarf I was wearing. It was a dark red color, something I always threw on for warmth in the December nights. How did they know about my scarf? They couldn't have seen it unless they were closer than the dark figure silhouetted in the upstairs window. I felt my breath catch. I realized the figure hadn't moved. It was still there, observing. I dropped the phone and grabbed the gear shift. Reverse. I needed to get out. But then a text notification popped up on the locked screen, a preview visible. You forgot to lock your back door, didn't you? The one on the driver's side. That's poor safety practice. You should fix that. I felt a cold wave of shock wash over me that had nothing to do with the freezing air. I always locked my doors. Always. It was habit. But in the rush to check the empty lot, maybe I had been distracted. I cautiously, slowly, turned my head to look at the rearview mirror, letting my eyes drift to the dark outline of the back seat. Did I see a slight indentation in the fabric? Or was my fear just playing tricks on me in the overwhelming darkness? I didn't dare move to check the door lock. If it was unlocked, the moment I reached for it, I might be exposing myself. Was there someone hiding in the back seat right now? The thought was paralyzing. The figure in the upstairs window was still watching. I could feel the invisible line of their gaze boring into the back of my skull. They were playing with me, enjoying the slow, agonizing realization of my vulnerability. I gripped the keys in the ignition, my knuckles white. I had to move, but accelerating might alert whoever was possibly in the back. A sudden, violent movement would confirm their presence and risk a confrontation. What if they had a weapon? I slowly, deliberately, put my foot on the brake and shifted into drive, trying to make the motion smooth and imperceptible. I started to roll forward, agonizingly slow, just a crawl. My eyes flickered up to the rearview mirror and back to the window. The figure was gone. The light was out. Had they finally left the window? A new terror immediately replaced the old one. If they weren't at the window, where were they? Were they coming down? My phone vibrated again. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't stop myself. The screen lit up. I'll catch you next time. Drive safe and get a new scarf. That one has a snag on the corner now. Maybe I'll replace it for you. My eyes darted to the dashboard where the phone rested. The scarf was still wrapped around my neck, but a single perfect thread had been pulled loose right on the corner, dangling about an inch. A thread that wasn't loose 5 minutes ago. I screamed, a silent, trapped sound in the back of my throat, as I slammed my foot on the accelerator, tires spitting gravel and snow as I shot out of that desolate street and did not stop until the flickering neon sign of the highway gas station finally pulled me back into the world of the living. Was I safe now? I drove straight to the police station, the uneaten food orders sitting like heavy, toxic weights on the passenger seat, knowing I had just escaped something far more dangerous than a simple robbery. Would they find the stalker? I still don't know who he was, but every time I lock my door now, I hear that metallic click and wonder if he's still watching, waiting for the night I forget to check the back seat. Will I ever truly feel safe again on a December night? The moment the main gate slid shut behind me, the cold solidified. It was a different kind of cold here, not just weather, but an atmosphere. The air was so still and dense it seemed to muffle every sound except the high-pitched whine of the wind starting to pick up its pace. It was December 18th, and I was house-sitting for my friend, Julian, at his colossal modern mansion carved into the hillside overlooking the city lights, which were now rapidly disappearing behind a curtain of swirling snow. He had a last-minute business trip to Switzerland, and I got the cushy gig. 10 days of solitude, unlimited streaming, and access to a professional-grade kitchen. What could possibly go wrong, right? The house itself was all glass and concrete, a fortress of technology. Julian had warned me, the security system is military-grade, Cass. Don't touch anything you don't understand. If the exterior lasers trip, the entire neighborhood watch gets an alert. I settled in, feeling ridiculously small in the cavernous, minimalist living room. The huge, floor-to-ceiling windows were meant to showcase the view, but tonight they just reflected the interior back at me, creating a series of uneasy, watchful mirrors. Around 10 p.m., the blizzard hit with a vengeance. The sound was monstrous, a constant roar against the thick glass. I was tucked onto a deep couch, a mug of tea warming my hands, when the dedicated security tablet on the coffee table blinked. It was a low-priority alert, labeled simply, Perimeter Zone 3 Motion Activated. I frowned. Zone 3 was the back garden, a manicured slope that led to a thick line of evergreens. What could be moving out there in this wind? I tapped the screen and brought up the corresponding thermal camera feed. The image was a hazy, shifting sea of white and gray due to the snow, but there, near the evergreen line, was a distinct, warm, yellow-orange shape. It was low to the ground, moving slowly, deliberately. A large animal, maybe a deer or a coyote, I thought, trying to rationalize it. I watched it for a minute until it disappeared into the thickest part of the trees. The system recalibrated, and the alert cleared. Just a cold animal looking for shelter, I told myself, feeling a slight easing of the tension. But an hour later, the alert returned. This time, it was front driveway object detection. I checked the feed for the main driveway. It was completely deserted, covered in a fresh layer of rapidly accumulating snow. No cars, no footprints, nothing. Was the system glitching in the storm? I tried to dismiss it, but the unease was back, sharper now. The system was new and expensive. It shouldn't be generating false positives, especially not in such a specific zone. I decided to check the event logs. This is where things became truly unsettling. I scrolled back to the initial Zone 3 motion alert. Directly underneath the timestamp for the animal sighting, there was another entry, logged precisely 5 minutes later, with a chilling description: Internal access point 1, temporary disconnect / reconnect. Internal access point 1 was the utility room door, which connected the main house to the 3-car garage. Why would that door briefly disconnect and then reconnect? I got up, my heart starting its slow, heavy thumping against the silence of the massive house. The logical answer was the power fluctuation from the storm, but Julian's house had a dedicated generator, which I could hear humming softly in the basement. I crept down the long hallway, the sound of my own footsteps muffled on the thick carpet. I stopped before the utility room door. It was solid oak with a heavy, brass handle. I reached out and slowly twisted the handle. The door was locked, bolted from the inside. Relief washed over me, potent and immediate. See, it was just a glitch. I turned to go back to the living room, but then I remembered the entry: temporary disconnect / reconnect. Not an unlocked event, but a disconnect. A brief, momentary lapse in the system's ability to monitor that specific point. Did someone briefly interrupt the signal, long enough to pick the lock or bypass the sensor, and then restore it? My hands started to shake. I returned to the security tablet and pulled up the live feed for the garage. It was dark, but the infrared gave it a grainy, green-tinted clarity. Nothing. Just Julian's 2 luxury cars and a wall of storage. Wait, in the far corner, near the back wall, was that a small, dark shadow moving near the floor? I zoomed in, squinting. It was too small for a person, too quick. Maybe a large rat, driven inside by the cold. I messaged Julian, figuring he'd be awake with the time difference. Security system is acting weird, getting motion alerts in the blizzard. Did you ever have issues with power fluctuations overriding the sensors? The reply came back almost instantly: no, never. The system is flawless. If it's alerting, something is there. Check the front door camera again and look very closely at the porch light. What do you see? I tapped the screen and switched to the front entrance view. The porch light was on, its pale yellow glow fighting the onslaught of the white snow. I leaned in close to the screen, looking for anything out of the ordinary. The snow was piling up quickly on the steps. Then I saw it. 2 distinct, dark impressions in the snow, right at the edge of the porch light's halo. Not the flat, even surface of undisturbed snow, but two subtle depressions, as if someone had placed two heavy bags down for just a moment. And leading away from those impressions, towards the shadows of the overgrown hedge, was a faint, almost invisible track of disturbed snow, too wide for an animal. Someone had been here. They were not just outside. They had walked right up to the front door. But the system never alerted me for the front door, only the driveway. The panic finally hit me, cold and sharp. If someone had been on the porch and the system didn't alert, that meant they knew exactly how to navigate the blind spots. The initial Zone 3 motion was a distraction. The disconnect at the utility room was their entry, and the object detection in the driveway was a secondary failsafe they'd almost tripped, maybe by dropping something before they entered. I scrambled back to the living room, my eyes wide, scanning the reflective glass. I looked at my reflection, but behind it, in the deep black of the room beyond, I thought I saw a slight shift, a displacement of the shadows that shouldn't have been there. Was I hallucinating, or was someone standing in the doorway, just out of my direct line of sight? My phone vibrated with another text from Julian. "Did you check the light yet? I have a camera on the light fixture. The one that faces the window. Tell me, Cass, what color is the small indicator LED light at the base of the fixture? It should be blue." I slowly raised my eyes to the reflective glass again, focusing on the distorted image of the porch light outside. And there it was, tiny and red, a hostile little pinprick in the swirling snow. The indicator light was red, not blue. Red meant the camera feed had been redirected. Someone had taken control of the front porch camera, likely to disable the motion sensor and watch me. How long had they been watching me? The storm roared louder, and suddenly, the lights flickered and went out, plunging the vast room into an absolute, suffocating darkness. The only sound was the generator struggling in the basement, and somewhere, much closer now, a slow, deliberate sound of fabric brushing against wood. Is he standing right behind me? I clutched the security tablet, its cold glass screen my last connection to reality, and held my breath, waiting for the brushing sound to stop, waiting to find out what happens when the neighborhood watch isn't watching you, but waiting for you. Will I survive the night?